In 55 BC, under the relentless heat of the Mesopotamian sun, two great powers of the ancient world met on the battlefield of Carrhae. In a disastrous clash that lasted for 2 days, the Roman Republic faced off against the Parthian Empire in one of the most significant battles in history. So, what led to this fateful encounter, and how did it shape history? Let's dive into the history of the Battle of Carrhae and see what lessons we can learn from this event. Before jumping into the actual battle, let's quickly go through the context. In 55 BCE, rich Roman senator Marcus Licinius Crassus was elected to a consular term. He was partnered with Pompey the Great, a colleague he didn't get along with. Crassus, who had put an end to the Spartacus slave rebellion, was resentful of Pompey for taking his credit. Both of them were tied together in an awkward alliance by Julius Caesar, and they both wanted to govern provincial territories. The consular elections of 55 BCE offered the perfect opportunity to execute their ambitions. Through shrewd political maneuvering, they passed legislation securing multi-year proconsular appointments, Hispania for Pompey and Syria for Crassus. The charm of Syria proved too potent for Crassus to resist. Already a man of staggering wealth, Crassus was, as Plutarch describes, gripped by an unquenchable thirst for gold and glory. He viewed Syria as a gateway to the rich East, a stepping stone towards surpassing both Pompey and Caesar in military feats. However, Crassus wasn't alone in his ambitions. The powerful Parthians were also enjoying the same territory. Even though they had been peaceful with Rome for the past 10 years since Pompey's eastern campaigns, the situation was about to change. Early in the winter, Crassus started his journey towards Syria. His initial plans to sail from Brundisium at the foot of the Italian peninsula were foiled by bad weather, causing him to redirect his efforts to an overland march through Anatolia and into his desired province. As spring started in 54 BCE, the ambitious Crassus ventured into Mesopotamia, capturing several cities lining the Euphrates River. He strategically placed garrisons in these cities before retreating to Syria for the winter, eagerly awaiting his son Publius's arrival with reinforcements from Gaul. However, this decision may have been a crucial mistake. Crassus unknowingly handed the Parthians precious time to strategize and strengthen their defenses. As winter was ending, Crassus got a message from Parthia. They told him they would fight if Rome wanted war, but the Parthian king Orodes II might spare him if the war was only Crassus's idea. Crassus ignored the warning and got his army ready. He also got a visit from King Artavasdes II of Armenia, who was a friend of Rome. The king promised to help with 40,000 soldiers and advised Crassus to go to Parthia through Armenia's hills. This way, the Parthians couldn't use their strong cavalry, but Crassus wanted to go through Mesopotamia. In the summer of 53 BCE, Crassus took his army of around 43,000 men and entered Mesopotamia. They met an Arab chief named Ariamnes. He was a friend of Pompey, but was working secretly for the Parthians. Ariamnes tricked Crassus, making him lead his army into a dry, sandy plain. Even more clever was that Ariamnes left before Crassus realized he had been fooled. Later, Crassus got news that the Parthians had attacked Armenia, so King Artavasdes couldn't send the soldiers he promised. Despite being let down, Crassus kept moving. His scouts soon saw a large Parthian army near the city of Carrhae. Then, the battle commenced. Crassus set his legions along the Balikh River, initially designing a thin line with cavalry at the ends for flank protection. Changing plans, he ordered a square formation instead, with 12 cohorts per side and cavalry protecting the edges. Gaius Cassius Longinus commanded one wing, Publius, Crassus's son, the other. Crassus himself stayed in the center. The Roman force spotted the Parthians, who seemed small from afar, but the Parthian force, composed of light horse archers and heavy cataphracts under the young warrior Cyrenius, surprised the Romans with a thunderous advance. The Romans, expecting close-quarter combat, were unprepared for the rain of arrows from mounted archers, creating confusion and disruption in their ranks. Crassus altered his strategy, sending Publius to attack the Parthians. But, caught in a tight space and unprepared for the arid conditions and heavily armored enemy, they fell back. Cornered on a slope, They formed a defensive shield formation, which exposed them to the continuous volley of arrows, leading to the death of the Roman contingent and the death of Publius and his officers. The Parthians reportedly took only a few prisoners, killing the rest. Crassus' situation worsened as he received news of his men's defeat, not knowing yet about his son's fate. His despair soon changed into determination upon witnessing Publius' severed head presented by the Parthians. He attempted to motivate his men, but the sight of Publius' head was demoralizing. The Romans were surrounded and forced into a tight formation, unable to resist the charging Parthian forces. At night, facing the choice of fleeing and leaving the wounded, or making a last stand at dawn, Crassus was frozen with grief. His officers decided to evacuate all able-bodied soldiers. Only 300 made it to the city of Carrhae and escaped further to Zeugma. The rest were slowed by their wounded comrades. Upon sunrise, the Parthians killed the remaining Romans and captured many of the fleeing soldiers. Crassus and Cassius survived and reached Carrhae. The city was under siege by Syrians, who offered peace if the Romans withdrew from Mesopotamia. Crassus accepted, but the Parthians demanded the Romans surrender in chains for peace. Refusing, the Romans planned a nocturnal escape, guided by Andromachus, who, according to Plutarch, betrayed them to the Parthians. Cassius, skeptical of Andromachus, escaped to Syria with 500 men. Crassus, with his cohorts, reached a hill near Armenia. Syrians offered peace once again at the hill near Armenia. Crassus and his men came down the hill for a treaty signing. They tried to mount Crassus on a horse provided by Syrians. Suddenly, a struggle broke out. During this, many Romans, including Crassus, were killed. The catastrophe at Carrhae marked a historical low for the Roman Republic, paralleling the shocking defeat they suffered at Cannae over a century and a half prior. Plutarch suggests that out of the initial 43,000 Roman combatants, 20,000 died, while another 10,000 ended up as captives. The fate of Crassus' remains is the subject of debate among ancient historians. While Cassius Dio states that the Parthians poured molten gold into his mouth as a symbol of his avarice, Plutarch asserts that they sent his severed hands and head to Orodes as a twisted tribute, even staging a faux triumph. Given the scale of Rome's disgrace at Carrhae, it's possible that the desecration of Crassus' remains was exaggerated by the time it was chronicled. Still, Crassus' death had monumental ramifications on Rome's political dynamics. With his stabilizing influence gone, the alliance between Caesar and Pompey turned into a civil war within 5 years. The conflict ultimately led to the fall of the Roman Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire in 27 BCE. Meanwhile, the Parthians faced their own calamities. Following the battle, Syrianus was executed by King Orodes II, who was rumored to have acted from jealousy. Orodes II was later murdered by his own son, Phraates. Phraates then had to defend Parthia against Mark Antony's efforts to recover the esteemed Aquilae, or eagle standards that Rome had lost at Carrhae. Although Rome finally reclaimed its Aquilae through diplomatic means under the rule of Emperor Augustus Caesar, it never succeeded in conquering Parthia. If you enjoyed the video, give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, let us know in the comments if you want to see more videos on similar topics. You can also check out our previous videos on the greatest hoax of all time. Goodbye until next time.